It had been 6 hours since I abandoned my home and barely escaped an attack. Infected, I thought, reliving the moment in my mind. They were my neighbors and good people, but they themselves were attacked by infected and transformed somehow, and were no longer the people I once knew. As I walked through the woods, the sun began peeking through the trees to the east. I was tired, but adrenaline kept me awake. I thought about my neighbor Nick. He saw this coming. He had a cabin, and he even invited me to come when everything started falling apart. How was I to know this was all going to happen? But if walking through the woods pursued by the undead wasn't bad enough, it began to rain, and a lot. It soaked me everywhere my coat didn't cover. My jeans were heavy, and my shoes squelched with every step. All throughout the day I kept looking behind me, startled by every sound. But most of it was nothing. A branch falling, an animal crashing through the brush. But a few times it wasn't. I heard yells, gunshots, saw a figure swaying in the distance, and each time I hurried my pace. It was evening when the rain finally let up, but it didn't feel like relief. I found a clearing and decided to risk setting up a campfire in the open. I knew it was dangerous. Smoke travels like carries, but I was wet through and through, and the sunlight felt good. I'm not an outdoorsman, but I knew I had to get dry before I went any further. Finding dry kindling was difficult, but getting this fire started was worse. I had to strip down from the waist and hang my wet clothes on sticks I pushed into the ground near the fire. Then I took off my coat, folded it beneath me, and sat close on it next to the flames. I dug through my bags, pulled out a small pot, can opener, can of ravioli and green beans, opened them all up and threw them into the pot together, put it over the fire. Then I ate everything with the spoon I packed. The sun had gone down. I was warm, but half naked while the clothes were finished drying. And that's where I stayed for the night. In the morning, I was shivering. Not just because it was cold, but because I really hadn't slept. At least my clothes were dried. I never spent a night outside like this before. I kept thinking survival was supposed to look different. In movies, people adapt. They get sharper, calmer. They become something else. But I was still just me. I stood slowly, legs stiff, stomach already tight with hunger. I didn't know what I was doing out here. I only knew that going back home wasn't an option. Hungry, I put 2 cans of minestrone soup in the pot that I didn't clean. It's not the first time I reused something I didn't wash. I'm sure you'll be okay, I thought to myself. I added kindling to the fire, coaxing it back to life, and heated the soup in the pot. I ate slowly, stretching out as long as I could. Every bite felt important. When it was gone, I scraped the bottom like something might still be hiding there. But even with the soup, I was still thirsty. Maybe even more now. I decided to get up and find water, carrying the empty pot with me as I went. I found pools of rainwater on the forest floor from the storm, but vaguely remember hearing stagnant water was the worst to try to boil and drink. At least that's what I thought I heard. I decided not to risk it. I needed to find a stream, something with moving water. Might be safer to boil for drinking. I don't know how long it took or how far I wandered. Eventually I did find a stream. I knelt, rinsed out the pot, filled it, and started heading back the way I thought I'd come. I came to an opening and felt a flash of relief. I was sure it was my camp. The shape felt right, the spacing of the trees. I walked into the clearing. Nothing. No fire, no bags, no clothes. Turned around and searched some more. But this wasn't it. And so I turned around and continued to walk. Hours stretched on into the late afternoon. And it kept happening. I'd find another clearing, have a moment of hope, but find an empty space with none of my stuff. And 3 more times, I kept finding clearings. They felt right, but none of them were mine. Darkness crept in slowly, and then all at once, the sun slipped behind the tree line and didn't come back. Panic followed close behind. I stopped moving. There was no moon. I could barely see my hands in front of me. The temperature dropped fast, but I didn't bring my coat. The day was so warm, so there was no reason to bring it along. I hadn't counted on getting lost. My hands shook as I searched my pockets. When my fingers closed around a Ziploc bag of dry matches, I felt hope. I scraped together a small fire. The first match snapped, the second flared and died, but the third caught. The fire was small, it was weak, but it was going to be enough. I set the pot of water over the flames. When it cooled enough to drink, I swallowed it in one long pull. It barely touched the hunger, but the warmth helped. Sleep came in pieces. I kept waking up cold. Had to add more kindling to the fire to get it warm again. I drifted off and snapped awake again and again. Sometimes I thought I was in my bed. Sometimes I was sure something was leaning over me, breathing. Every time I woke, my hand went to the gun to make sure it was still there. Early morning, I heard movement. Not an animal. It's too heavy. It's too uneven. I ducked behind a tree, my heart hammering, gun halfway raised. The sound stopped suddenly, like at whatever it was had changed direction. Then I saw him. Tom? I thought to myself, is that Tom? But was what's my neighbor Tom came out of the trees, saw me, and started to run. His eyes were wide, teeth bared, hands were outstretched. He was not stumbling. He was not dragging a leg. He was running, full speed, straight at me. I yelled, Tom! Tom, stop! But he didn't stop. Shit, we're going to have to shoot him. I raised the gun, fired and missed. He closed the distance faster than I thought possible. I fired again. Shot it at his shoulder, but it barely slowed him down. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ragged. I braced myself and fired again. Tom crashed into me, knocking the air out from my lungs. We hit the ground hard. For a split second, my imagination ran wild, every nightmare at once. His face inches from mine, his mouth opening wide, teeth bared. But then the pain hit me. Not from a bite, not from a scratch, but because I got the wind knocked out of me. I rolled away from where Tom ended up, and I sat up, looked at Tom's motionless corpse, and wasn't sure how to feel. I moved slower after that, and a little gingerly, but more aware. Every sound felt like it might be the last one I heard. Twigs snapping, leaves shifting. My own footsteps even felt reckless. I went back to retracing my steps and seeing if I could find my camp. That's when I started to see others. Not just infected. Survivors. Small groups. Tired. Their heads on a swivel. I watched one from a ridge as 3 people fought 2 infected in a clearing. They had no guns. Just their fists, maybe even a knife. Desperation. The infected were fast. Too fast. They swarmed the first in person, dragged him down, and turned on the next, and they tried to help them. It was over in seconds. The last person turned, broke, and ran, but they weren't fast enough. I wasn't far away. I had a clear shot. I knew it. 1 bullet, maybe 2 for each. Maybe I could have helped, but I didn't. For a few minutes, I sat quietly thinking about what I had seen and about what might have happened if I wasn't so lucky. The infected that attacked that group moved on, following sounds in the trees. As I turned to go, I heard a noise come from where the people had fallen, where they had been attacked by the infected. I thought they were dead. But one by one they got up, shuffled about uneasily, turned their heads and ran to follow the other infected in the trees. More screaming, people hiding in the trees not far away. Saw glimpses of them trying to run, but it was the same result. I told myself I couldn't have helped them. I told myself those attacked became infected, just like Tom. And then I would have to fight them off too. It would be too many. Then I'd be dead. And maybe even one of them. Whatever the hell they were. And although all of that is true, none of it helped. By evening, I still hadn't found my camp. I followed the sound of water, not because it was a good plan, but because it was the only one I had left. The stream appeared through the trees, thin and fast. For a moment, I thought I recognized it. Maybe this is where I'd been before. Maybe I was close to where I had started. From a low ridge overlooking the stream, I scrapped together another small fire. It took longer this time to get it started. I sat there staring at it, counting my blessings. I was only able to count 1. And then the rain came down, hard and sudden, drenching the forest in seconds. The fire hissed and collapsed, the flames shrinking until there were nothing but smoke and wet embers. I didn't try to save it. I knew better. I used branches from the underbrush wedging them between hanging branches in the trees, fixing them together, building something that barely deserved to be called a shelter. Trap the heat, block the wind, and protect the fire. I set a new campfire under the shelter, and that took 10 matches to light. It rained for 2 solid days. Sleep was difficult, not just because lying on the hard ground, but because I knew they were infected. And many at that now. Wandering the woods? I had considered my options though. Risk walking through the rain, getting soaked, then maybe sick, and perhaps that would be the end of me. Right now I have shelter, a fire, water nearby, and I'm at an elevation where I can see around me. With that, I decided not to take any risks and stayed at the shelter. On the 3rd day, the rain finally let up. Let's get going, I muttered to myself. I went down to the stream, filled my pot with water, hastily boiled it, drank it, and then I decided we are going to continue following the stream. There's salt water. We don't have food, but we have water. And perhaps it'll lead somewhere better. At worst, maybe if I needed to, I could retrace my steps and easily find my way back here to the shelter. As I walked, the hunger kept coming and going, harder every time. Thirst is the only thing I could satisfy. I could try hunting. I had a gun, but I knew nothing of butchering animals. The only thing I knew about food was going to a grocery store, buying it there, and then cooking it at home. This was completely and totally alien to me. Hours stretched on as I walked, and I saw no one. And when the evening came, I looked at the sky, didn't see many clouds, didn't think we were going to have to worry about rain, so I built another fire out in the open. 10 matches left. I stared into the dark, wondering what the night would bring. Rain, perhaps? Thunder? Tornadoes? The undead? I slept fitfully, but at least survived all the way until morning. I forced myself up on stiff legs. It made water again. A strange calm settled over me, but I had to fight it. "You are not safe," I said aloud. "Get up, get moving." My legs didn't feel like mine anymore. I walked for hours. When the sun grew too hot, I moved into the trees for shade, but always kept following the stream without really thinking about it. At midday, I was thirsty, so I went to make water. And then I realized I didn't have my pot. I stood there, searching my memory. Then another thought hit me. "Shit," I said. I searched my pockets, found matches, at least relieved about that. But the worst thing, I had lost my gun. I sat on a rock, trying to think. I weighed going back, knowing the pot would probably be there at the last camp, but not sure if the gun would be. Yes, I would probably lose the rest of the day. I would probably have to stay there the night. But what if it rained? What if it rained for days again and I would be stuck there? It'd be a really bad setback. Or I could just keep going forward and risk everything. I turned to go back when I saw movement downstream. Several human shapes I couldn't tell from this distance if they were human or not. They weren't running. Not yet, at least. What if I went around them, I thought. But what if I got lost in the woods again? We had come this far. I decided we weren't going to do that. We were going to go upstream. So I slipped into the cover of the trees and kept moving hastily. The adrenaline carried for me for a while, then quickly faded. But my thirst didn't. I wanted to take a drink from the stream, but I thought it would be a big risk. I could get parasites. I could turn a bad situation into a hopeless situation. Then a lake appeared through the trees, dark still, reflecting the sky like black glass. And in the distance, cabins lined the far shore. A handful of them. Too far, I couldn't tell if there were people there or not. Maybe civilization? Or empty cabins? Or maybe people who wouldn't let me in. Or worse, people who might kill me to keep safe what they had. I just kept thinking, but finally desperation overruled everything. That drove me forward. I wondered if this was the point in the story where I'd be staved, or if this was the point where my story would come to an end.